The biggest fear I have is like going out in public to like a business event or wherever, like wearing an Old Navy sweatshirt, which is totally ridiculous. And like, I don't need to wear like some Italian suit. I'm not actually interested in any of that either. But like feeling common or ordinary is just like the craziest thing for me.
I am going to buy you like the worst Old Navy sweatshirt I could find.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Fearful Giants, the podcast that's getting loud about something most leaders never talk about out loud, their fear. I'm Clay Stelzer, executive coach and founder of 1560. And every week I sit down with a founder, a CEO, or an executive leader to talk about the stuff they're not typically posting about or talking about on LinkedIn. And today I have the one and only J Schwan with me. And if you don't know Jay builds high-performance organizations at the intersection of people, profit, and planet. And this guy actually does it. He doesn't just talk about it. Currently, Jay serves as the CEO of Gladiator Tennis, which is a national racket sports league, modernizing how adult recreational athletes connect, train, and compete. And prior to Gladiator, Jay founded a company called Solstice, which he then sold, and it became Kin Carta, which he became the CEO of. And he scaled this socially responsible digital engineering firm from just himself to a venture of over 2,000 employees across 4 continents. Not bad, Jay. Something else that's really cool about that company, it was the first publicly traded B Corp on the London Stock Exchange, which I think is super, super cool. He really does care about the impact he's creating in the environment and with his customers and with his employees. And that's something that I just absolutely love about what Jay's up to in the world. Lastly, Jay holds a degree in material science and engineering from the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. Go Illini. I also went there. Go Illini. He was honored there with its Young Alumnus Award. He's a neighbor of mine. He lives in Glen Ellen, Illinois with his wife, Gina, and their 5 children, where he serves on the St. Petronile School Board. And Jay, I'm just so excited that we get to do this together. Thank you for being here.
I'm happy to be here, Clay. I'm excited as well.
We met, 3 or 4 years ago. I remember we were hanging out at a local coffee shop that we both really like. And this was not too far after you had sort of left Kin Carta and you were thinking about what's next. And I remember you talking with me about this idea of the second mountain.
Yeah.
I think the second mountain, there was actually some business context to that, but I think in your mind, it was actually bigger than a business idea. It was like this stage of life you were moving into almost. I would love to kind of hear back then, what did it mean to you after you left Kin Carta to be in the second mountain idea?
Yeah. It was a pretty interesting, challenging time. I had spent close to 25 years building Solstice and what eventually became Kin Carta. And so my identity was really wrapped up like in that company. It's kind of how I really defined myself, defined my career, defined my goals. So after I, just stepped away, I had to kind of figure out like to some degree, like who I was and what is it that I cared about. There's a point in time as that company scaled that, particularly as it became publicly traded, I had a lot of external stakeholders to serve. That just shifted a balance of priorities in a number of different ways. And so coming back to almost starting over again, it was like, okay, what do I want to do next, right? What's the next mountain I want to climb? And I really thought about how much I enjoyed like the first leg of that journey, of that Solstice Kin Carta journey, kind of the 0 to 60 phase of kind of getting it going. And I wanted to return to something like that. And so the idea of the second mountain was like, okay, let's figure out what this is. By no means did I feel like I got to the top of any mountain before it, but it was more about like starting over and taking on a new set of challenges that, that were inspiring to me.
Yeah. I've had a few people, and actually a number of people on here that have been successful and climbed that first mountain and reap the rewards of that. And there usually seems to be this reckoning, this like, oh shit moment almost, or who am I? And so, which I think is what you're saying led you to the second mountain. But you woke up to this idea, the 0 to 60. I'm curious what that was to you. What was it about the first stages of that journey that you really wanted to recreate or you know?
Yeah, I mean, it was just the sense of the new, of being a beginner at something, the constant state of learning, being in like a perpetual like build, just building and building and building. So just I just like the unknowns to me are like really exciting sometimes. I mean, there's anxiety associated with that, but it's also just like really exciting to kind of venture into some like new territory, putting a new team together, defining a new product, taking it to market, running experiments, and really trying to kind of figure out how to get something rolling again. I just really enjoyed that phase of the journey. And so like I was excited to kind of get back to something like that. And then for me, it was like also like, what is it? I kind of joke that I spent the first 25 years of my career putting people on screens and I wanted to spend the next 25 getting them off of them. So there was a little bit of that. Like I loved kind of the digital technology world and consumer technology and everything that we did and we built. But I also feel like we've over indexed on it a bit as a society. So that was exciting to me, is to kind of trying to think about a different problem domain that maybe I could use some of the skills that I learned, apply them in a different way. So all of that was kind of exciting.
Yeah. And this may seem like a silly question, but you chose to climb a second mountain, not a second foothill, or, you could have just gone to the park. You could have sat
Hmm.
under a tree with a martini and just kind of looked around. But there was something in you that's like, I'm getting my boots on again. What is that drive that lives within you that actually says, no, I want another mountain to climb?
Yeah, it's kind of a two. I'll give you kind of two different answers for it. So one, like after I first left, I kind of thought about moving to the investor side of the table and like, doing some targeted angel investing and advisory type work, which is like a lot of times people in my position kind of do that. I said, okay, I'm going to run like a 6-month experiment and just try that and see how I like it. And so I made some investments in some other companies that were in my old sector, and I met some great founders. I really appreciate the teams that I invested in. But I recognized after that 6 months, like it wasn't going to be enough. Like I'm like, there's not enough here really for me to feel satisfied, and I'm not one that could ever just stop doing anything. I think it's important to work. I just think, just from a mental health standpoint and physical health standpoint, I just think it's important to be, a productive kind of person. That's just my belief. So that kind of investor seat wasn't enough to kind of scratch the itch. I think I'm like, I couldn't see myself doing this for another 20, 30 years or however long I have on this planet. I kind of turned my attention pretty quickly to like, okay, what's the next thing that I could actually build and operate, which kind of led me to Gladiator.
Yeah. And I love the idea that you spent the first half of your life getting people on screens and the second half of your life getting them off screens, which I'm imagining is in part what you chose Gladiator Tennis as your next mountain. I'd love to just hear a little bit more. One about, I think people might be interested as to what Gladiator Tennis is, and then why was that the second mountain? After all the options you could have chosen, you ended up on that one. Why that one?
Yeah. Well, I'm passionate about racket sports. I just think as a activity, particularly in the context of like adult recreation, I think it's just one of the best things you can do for your health. And this has actually been proven in a number of recent studies. Racket sports kind of give you the ability to kind of flex your mental agility, your physical agility, and your social agility. Like it's a very social sport. And all three of those things are really important as we age. And I enjoy competing. As adults, I think we get away in many cases from competition. Like we're kind of thrown into it as kids. And maybe some people are more competitive athletes, quote unquote competitive athletes than others. But everybody, I think has fun playing games. It's just like a natural thing as humans. We just enjoy playing games. And so I really wanted to kind of think about recreational sports, and I wanted to think about adult recreational sports, because I also think in this age of AI, I think we're going to end up having a lot more time to play games. I think that's like, there's a lot of downside and fear, and Lord knows there's a lot of things we got to figure out. But I do think when the dust settles, we're going to have more time to play games. So I like that idea and that area of the market. And obviously racket sports, as I mentioned. And so Gladiator actually existed before me. It was started by a guy named Steve Hess back in 2008. It was a local tennis league here in Chicago. It was built completely like virtually. So the concept of the league, there isn't any physical infrastructure that we own. We basically utilize public infrastructure and match people up at the same skill level in the same location to play a series of matches over the course of the season. We have technology that really makes it selective in terms of how we match people at the same skill level, because racket sports is one of those sports where it's a lot more fun when you're playing someone at your same level, whether you're a beginner or advanced. It's not really fun if there's a huge disparity. So the guy that ran the league had a really good system for determining that. And then the flexibility of it kind of keeps it open to everybody. So, you're not constrained to a specific time and a specific place. You can play whenever you can, which is very attractive for, busy working adults. And so I like that aspect of it. From a social standpoint, it's a great way to meet other people that are kind of, at your same level, at your same stage of life. And so there's some great connection and community that kind of builds out of it. After playing in the league for a few years, I kind of looked at it and I said, man, we could probably wrap a very engaging digital experience around this to make it even easier for people to play, and then roll it out across the country and create, something like this on a national scale that can make it even more fun for people to be able to play wherever they are in the country, not just in their home city. That was kind of the vision. I purchased the league from Steve at the end of 2024, brought in a team of some of my old ex-colleagues. We built a new digital platform, and now we've rolled out to 8 markets so far outside of Chicago, and, hope to continue it.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I know that you've enjoyed tennis for a long time. It's something you're passionate about. And there is that old cliche, don't turn your passion into your business.
Yeah.
And I'm curious what's underneath that laugh. I'm curious what that experience has been like for you and if you see any truth to that cliche.
I don't agree with the statement of like, follow your passion and everything else will take care of itself or whatever. Like I don't think that's necessarily a guaranteed win, but I do think you need to be able to be passionate about whatever it is that you're doing or building in order to be successful in it, or like learn to appreciate what it is that you're focused on and find some sort of gratification from that. So I chuckled about the tennis thing because, being in it, and it was like, because I was playing a lot of tennis before I started the company. And then being in the tennis world and tennis conversations all day, I have kind of decided I need to branch out and play some other games besides just tennis. Like it's too, I don't want to be too one dimensional and burn
Yeah, yeah.
myself out. So I did start taking some golf lessons over the winter and playing some paddle, some other racket sports and stuff, which I think is just honestly good for my elbow more than anything else, but also a little bit of my mental clarity.
Yeah, this question came to mind when we were talking a couple weeks ago. You mentioned golf, which I love. I'd love to go golfing with you. But I'm like, okay, interesting. Maybe I wanted to get your take on this idea of turning your hobby into a business.
Yeah. I do also think there's room for similar types of innovation in individual sports too. So part of it also is like a little bit of research, like, all right, let's figure out how some of these other sports work. And maybe if there's an opportunity to do something similar, in other domains.
Yeah. And certainly with pickleball, and I mean, racket sports has exploded. One of the cool things I know about pickleball is it has become a wildly cool way to meet local people in the community, even without the digital technology that I'm not sure existed in the tennis world. Like it has just
Yeah.
organically erupted in
It's a
pickleball.
Pickle has been a rising tide for all racket sports. It's just been an awesome movement. There's another sport called padel that's having a similar surge in other European countries and in some of the southern kind of US markets. So it's just like, yeah, there's just a lot more people playing racket sports now, which is just awesome to see.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so this show's called Fearful Giants, and you know me a little bit, and I like talking about the stuff that we just talked about, but I also like getting under the hood and really understanding and exploring who I am as a leader and as a human being, and asking my guests to do the same. And I just mentioned to you, I wanted to spice things up a little bit on the show rather than just asking you some direct questions. I thought it'd be fun to kind of frame some of my curiosity into some games, which I know you appreciate. So I've got 3 games for us to play. And as I told you earlier, I am fair game. All my guests know they can ask me any questions. I'm happy to answer anything. And you can also tell me to buzz off if I'm asking you something you don't want to answer. All right,
That's the deal.
here we go. First one's called Bigger Fear Wins. So this is basically which is scarier. This is Fearful Giants. So here's the first
Okay.
question. What's scarier, failing publicly or succeeding and feeling empty?
I suppose the latter. I would think the latter. Do you want me to expand on that, or just do you want
Sure.
to?
Yeah.
I had a chance to give a talk down at U of I a couple weeks ago to a tech entrepreneurship class, and the professor that runs the class just asked for me to tell my story, and so I really thought about that, and then instead of telling the story of like Solstice and Kin and Carta and like that whole growth kind of story. I mean, I framed it in that context, but what I decided to talk about was this thing that I've kind of come to call the ghost. And the ghost is like this driving force kind of inside of me that no matter what I achieved, it was always telling me like that I needed to do more. And so it was like this kind of somewhat positive motivating factor, but that could never get caught. It could never catch it. And it really did end up leading me to a place that led me to be unhappy, to be frank. And I kind of figured that out after a long number of years that this ghost could be a good thing because it was this like renewable energy that I had that was driving me, but also it wasn't necessarily going to take me to a place that I wanted to go. And so I think like to your question, like I've felt that like achieved something and been like, wait a second, I've been at this thing for so long and I've achieved it and I don't feel like fulfilled or like happy or content. Like what's the deal? So I think to me that's a harder thing to deal with in public failure.
I would agree with you.
How about you? What would your answer be?
I think it used to be failing publicly, and now it's succeeding and feeling empty. I think,
Mm,
through my journey, it's like I just have less tolerance for putting on a show or bullshitting myself
mhm.
about what's important to me. And so if I put a lot of time and energy into something to achieve, I don't know, some ghost's agenda to feel like now I'm worthy of something or this means something about who I am in the world, I get caught in that trap. I'm still a human being, but
Yeah,
I'm less tolerant of that in my own life. Yeah.
right. I mean, or at least being able to recognize it, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Like
exactly.
be able to call it out when it's happening. That was the big wake up for me is like kind of being able to give this thing a name and then kind of
Yeah.
say, okay, that's the ghost talking. You got that's not
Yeah.
me. It's this other thing that I can hopefully control.
And I think this ghost is fairly common. And when my clients that I work with, we all have a ghost of some sort. I think it's actually
Right.
really fun to name the ghost, to learn about the ghost, because usually those ghosts are protectors. They were born into our life at some point to help us feel safe. And I like the idea of befriending our ghosts. So they're going to show up. The question for me is, what do you do when they show up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a great point.
Yeah.
They all come from somewhere. I think if you can kind of do the work to figure out where they're coming from also
Yeah.
helps. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go to the next question. So, which is scarier? Being exposed as not enough or being trapped playing the version of you that everyone loves?
Well, that's a good one. I've never actually had, no, I shouldn't say never, but the first one of those I've gotten very used to. I think starting Solstice, I was 23 years old. So I always was like too young to be in the room. Like we were selling to enterprise customers even at that point. And so I always kind of felt like I was ahead of my skis a little bit for whatever position I was, even when I, took the public company CEO job without any capital markets experience. And I kind of knew like, okay, I'm a fish out of water here. But I'm kind of okay with that. I actually like building cultures around that, like letting people know it's totally cool to be uncomfortable. This is the first time we're all doing this, me, myself included. Like, it's okay if we stumble a little bit. Like, I just think that's really healthy. The whole concept of imposter syndrome and all that stuff is a very real thing. But to me, it's like, I've just always been an advocate of being okay with that feeling and being transparent about it. The second thing that you mentioned, so like playing a role, this like putting a mask on and playing a version of yourself, like that one is much harder, I think, sometimes Sometimes I think it may be necessary to kind of like as a leader to kind of show some confidence and fortitude, even in like really challenging times. But I also feel like it doesn't feel good when when you're not being genuine, where you're kind of putting on a show for people and you walk away and you're like, "Ugh, this kind of feels kind of gross." Like, I don't know. So I don't like that feeling. That to me is much worse.
Yeah, yeah, I spent the first half of my life with that mask on, and that didn't feel very good. It helped me be really quite successful, but boy, I was a shell of a person by the end of that chapter of my life. That didn't feel very good at all.
Yeah. Yeah. That's another tough one to kind of acknowledge because you think you're doing the right thing and helping people sometimes when you do that, right?
Yeah, yeah. So speaking of helping people, here's the next question. What's scarier, being responsible for thousands of people or no longer being needed by them?
The first one, I think. I don't know. I kind of always, as I was kind of going through that first mountain, one of my colleagues, Kelly Manthe, who I ended up kind of handing the reins to when I left, she always had a saying of like, our job should be putting ourselves out of a job. And I really like kind of attached to that concept. And I really like that a lot as a leader. Like that should be your goal. So we both genuinely practice that. And so that to me actually is really liberating and it relieves a lot of tension and stress and, allows you to empower other people. So I'm not too concerned when I feel like that I'm not really needed. What was the second one again?
It's what's scarier, being responsible for
Oh
thousands of
yeah,
people
responsible
or no
people.
longer being needed by them. Yeah.
So like when I was running Solstice, we had never, to the point where we sold, had never laid anyone off. Like we had got scaled the firm to about 500-ish people and had never gone through a layoff and had some downtimes and challenging times, but just kind of weathered through it and just like took the hits to profitability and kept everybody. Once we got to like the Kin and Carta scale and it was thousands of people and it was publicly traded, it just wasn't possible to do that anymore because like our inventory essentially was our people, like that was the product.
Yeah.
When there was market swings, we had to like adjust and that sucked. Like frankly, I just felt so disconnected having to make some of those decisions. I just hated it. Just didn't like it at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's funny. I mean, I don't know the ins and outs of all of the elements of the ride, but I think you'd probably chalk it up as a successful first climb. And hearing that what Kelly mentioned and what you subscribe to is if you're doing your job right, you're putting yourself out of one by empowering the people underneath you and willing to take off your mask, which is the question prior, and exposing yourself. You're willing to do that. I get to meet lots of leaders that have varying levels of success. And I think the two things that you're talking about are really critical ingredients to actually achieving market success with the company. So makes some sense to me now. A little bit more sense to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. I mean, the more empowered the team can be and comfortable, like being uncomfortable and being willing to fail and know that people have their back, like it actually makes things a lot less stressful at the end of the day for everybody.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got one more question in this game, and here it is. What is scarier, plateauing or becoming someone who can no longer stop climbing?
What is scarier? I suppose plateauing. It depends how you define it, right? How you define what that means. To some degree, that's self inflicted, how you view that.
Sure.
I don't know. I think it's really important that like growth is really important. The sense of growth, of personal growth, of like moving ourselves forward. I just think that's like a fundamental human need that we have to fulfill to some degree to be happy. But it doesn't have to necessarily equate to a bigger job title or a higher salary or more income. Like there's other ways we can define that in terms of like our personal development. So I think viewing, oh, I plateaued. This is like, this is kind of about as far as I can take this, whatever it is, career, your health, your body, your relationships, your spirituality. I think that is dangerous. I think it's dangerous from a mental health standpoint to put yourself there. So that was scarier to me than just the sense of like, okay, I gotta keep going. As long as that drive is healthy, like we talked about, and not taking you to a place that you really don't want to be.
Yeah, right. And I think climbing the mountain, I mean, the question is, I can no longer stop climbing, which is very different from I'm wanting to continue to climb, which is what I'm
Yeah.
hearing you talk about earlier. You said it's actually quite healthy. I enjoy it. I wanted to get back to the fun part of creating Solstice. So I like to
Yeah.
think you can do anything from a place of creativity and curiosity and excitement, or you can do that same thing from a place of fear, because if I don't climb, then who am I?
Yeah.
And some people get trapped in that.
100%. That's the balance point, is kind of figuring that out.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, that's our first game. You ready for our second game?
Sure. That was fun.
This is great, isn't it? Isn't this so much fun doing this with me, Jay?
Who won though? I'm like, I mean, did it.
I think
I'm
you hit
kidding.
it.
I'm
I
joking.
I didn't even answer. I didn't even answer most of the questions, so you clearly won. Congratulations.
No, no, I don't. I'm just joking. I'm just joking.
There's the competitive stuff that comes out of
Yeah.
Jay. Okay, now I get why you want to do recreational sports in your life, because it's fun to win. Okay, next game's called Founder Confession Booth.
Under compassion booth. Okay.
And so this is a whole big experiment, that's kind of what's fun for me, is just to throw some spaghetti at the wall and see how it goes. That's what we're doing here. I'm going to introduce a couple prompts. You're going to finish the sentence. We're just going to blast through 5 of these things. And then at the end, we'll talk about which of these we think would be most fun or interesting to talk about. Okay, first one. A fear I don't usually admit is.
I don't know. I guess I genuinely probably care too much about what other people think. I mean, there's a little bit of a disempowering belief in my internal talk track that's a little bit too keyed in on that, like particularly like in like new social situations with new people. There's like I get a little bit of anxiety about stuff like that, which I don't normally talk about, but it's pretty normal for me. How about you?
Well, same, which has led me to this career path. However, the thing that I don't talk about very often is I am terrified of being seen as ordinary.
Hmm.
Yeah, this is Fearful Giants. This is me doing my work alongside all my guests. Yeah, like the scariest thing, I've told some of my friends and they all laugh at me around this. And it's pretty vain and ridiculous, but like the biggest fear I have is like going out in public to like a business event or wherever, like wearing an Old Navy sweatshirt. Which is
This
totally ridiculous. And like, I don't need to wear like some Italian suit. I'm not actually interested in any of that either. But
that's
like feeling
hilarious.
feeling common or ordinary is just like the craziest thing for me.
I am going to buy you like the worst Old Navy sweatshirt I could find
Thank you.
and make you wear that at whatever next networking event we find ourselves at.
No, in 12
That's
hours, you'll then
awesome.
see it at the Goodwill where you can now buy it for 50 cents.
We're gonna do like what is exposure therapy? Like we're gonna get you over this one.
Well, you mentioned that. You're pointing to something really, really great. That is a coaching tool. It's like, and that's something I could do. If I really wanted to learn and grow and get past my own bullshit, I would wear an Old Navy shirt at a business
Yeah.
event.
And I'm gonna buy myself exactly the same one and we're gonna
Oh.
go so you make sure that you blend in as much as possible.
Yeah.
Sorry, I
Well, the
don't mean to
reality
interrupt.
is, no, it's awesome. We should totally do that. And then, we go to our next business event and half of the crowd will have Old Navy sweatshirts and we will have created a thing.
That's right.
But, it is exposure therapy, because once I go there and I realize, wait a minute, I'm still a likable, lovable guy. And, it didn't matter what fucking shirt I was wearing. Like, that's how you do get over these things. Okay. So that's the first one. Second one, the part of success I liked a little too much was.
That's a weird one. The part of success that I liked a little too much. Why don't you go first? Like, what's an example of something you liked too much? You
Well,
liked too much, right? Like, not that you didn't like, but that you liked too much.
you like too much. Yeah, I mean, the people pleasing thing, I don't want to be seen as ordinary. I want people to adore me. Like, that's been my whole racket for years and years and years. And so when I'm successful, like, I'll feel like a massive dopamine hit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I'll float out of a room once I've wowed people or whatever it might be. And that's, I can appreciate the one in me that just really thrives in that, but it's deeply unhealthy too.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I just attach success to self-worth. And I actually feel it in my body how the tax I pay doing that.
Yeah, I definitely like, so I've always been a pretty comfortable public speaker. Like I'm not afraid of a microphone. And I didn't really realize that I had that knack until I started using it more and more as the company grew and I got on bigger stages and stuff like that. And there was like a point where I think there was a few instances where I really overdid it. Like I think that I was like better than I really was, like as a speaker, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I was going to I remember I had this like stint where I was going through like Tony Robbins stuff, going to like some of his seminars and things. And actually I thought, he's got his pluses and minuses about his whole spiel, but it really helped me at the time with some clarity and focus and some visioning and some stuff like that. But he's a very dynamic speaker and like big, right? And I remember doing a couple talks at some conferences where I was like channeling a little bit of that, and like looking back, man, it was pretty cringe. Like it was pretty bad. So I think I
Yeah.
definitely got over my skis like a little bit too full of myself, that, in hindsight was like, dude, like, chill out a little bit. So yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I so would have loved to have seen you in that state. I mean,
I
my gosh.
I'm hoping that there isn't some of that on YouTube, but I've been trying not to find some of those talks. There wasn't that many, but to be honest, but there's a couple where I think I jumped the shark a little bit.
Well, the good news is if that's the thing that was a little too much, like I didn't hear about any like cocaine binges on a private yacht somewhere with like, a
Yeah,
guest,
that
like
thankfully, that was never me. There was a great blog I read. I don't know, this is years ago, but it was basically titled like trading in my first class plane seat for seat 32A. And it was like, this person that had, been traveling, around the world for their business and has achieved all this status and was like, had these great travel experiences, but then like was missing dinner, with their kids and missing the softball game and the award ceremonies and those sorts of things. And he had a reckoning and kind of decided to kind of put some of that stuff to the side to kind of focus on the family and how much happier he was sitting in seat 32A. And that really
yeah.
resonates with me.
Yeah, I love that. That's cool. Okay,
Yeah.
next one. One way I make myself hard to work with is
I'm a little bit ADHD, a little bit shiny object. So there's just like never a lack of ideas. And I will a lot of times without governing myself drive my team crazy with a lot of changes in direction, or just a lot of just throwing a lot of different things out there, and people are okay, wait, what's the priority here? I've been able to get that under. It's funny, I like use this one, I think we've talked about this, but I use this like one page strategic plan format that is kind of a derivation of some stuff Vern Harnish did, who like the Rockefeller habits guys. And I always take my teams through that, which allows it's basically, as you set like like a 5-year goal, a set of 3-year goals, a set of 1-year goals, and then a set of 3-month rocks. Even in Gladiator, we're using this framework. We're such a small team, like it seems it's somewhat a little bit overkill, but honestly, it's really for me. So the team has something to say, like, do you remember like these are the priorities? Like, are we changing this? Like, and so I need that kind of structure to not drive the people around me nuts.
yeah,
How about
great.
you?
I'm glad.
What's
Everyone loves working with me, Jay. It's really not an issue for me. Well, the irony is actually like I mean, I'm a one-man shop over here, so I actually I haven't had a team in a long time. Well, I've got Nicole, who's my producer on the show. I work with her. Be fun to ask her that question.
Yeah, let's put her on.
Yeah, let's get her. Let's phone a friend. Hey, Nicole, how do I suck to work with? Um, Yeah. I think when I did work with teams, I could probably be a little passive aggressive. I'd probably be a little bit too scared to speak up with feedback. And then I'd secretly resent the people for doing exactly what they're doing. I used to get
Hmm.
caught in that trap. And I imagine that was not much fun to deal with on the receiving end.
Yeah. I think I can empathize with that a little bit because I'm not a huge fan of conflict. So yeah,
Exactly.
sometimes it's good to acknowledge that if that's happening for yourself, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Next one. What people celebrated in me that was actually hurting me was.
The 4 years I spent as like public company CEO of Kin Carta. The first two were really like big transformation years. Like we merged 6 companies together, sold like the other half of the portfolio they had when I came in, and then bought like 4 other firms. And so it was a kind of a platform build. So the first 2 years were just grind to kind of get all that working, which was tough to do in the public markets. But then it worked, and it like the firm really started to take off the last 2 years I was there. And we were getting a lot of accolades, and the stock was doing really, really well. And I was completely miserable. Like, like in terms of career fulfillment, or in terms of like what the role was bringing me, like I was just so far away from the things about that industry that I loved, which was the technology and the projects and the people and the clients. Like I just was in a role that was just so far removed from those things that I really appreciated. So I was just genuinely unhappy, but we had this really successful machine that we had built. And so I knew I had to figure out how to change that. And really I came to that realization, like I had to go. Like I couldn't stay there. It wasn't actually fair to the business to have someone leading it that wasn't fulfilled by the role. That was the ultimate determination. But also, I was in this weird catch 22 where it was like, I had led the firm through this transformation. I should say, like, I was in the CEO spot. There was a big team of people that led it through the transformation. But walking away from it was like, what was the public perception going to be? And was that going to hurt the company and its prospects? And so I felt a little bit trapped. And so it took a while to kind of be able to navigate through that, which was hard, but ultimately was the right thing to do. So I'm glad we got through it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, ready for game 3? I think you won that game too, so it's 2-0.
I'm not, you didn't give an answer to the last one.
But you want me to give an answer to the last one?
Yeah.
I mean, I know I get bored talking about this, but I mean, my whole life I was being everything I believed everyone wanted me to be. That was how I felt safe and worthy in the world. I remember I was in corporate headquarters in Seoul, Korea, presenting to Samsung our vision. This was when I was an innovation consultant, the future of headphones. And it was like, and I was on stage doing my thing. And at the end of the presentation, literally everyone stood up and applauded. It was a standing ovation. I never experienced that before. And maybe that's just a cultural thing. Maybe the presentation could have sucked and they still would have done that. I have no idea.
That's awesome.
But like I put everything, like, who do I need to be for these people to love me? That was my whole life. And I remember getting like, here I am seeing these people literally applauding, which I was not expecting. And then like 30 minutes later, I'm in the cab going wherever I was going. And I thought to myself, I have to resign from this position. I am absolutely a wreck of a human being.
Why? Like, why did you feel that way?
Because I was, by being the person I believed everyone thought I needed to be, I completely abandoned my own needs and who I wanted to be.
Mm.
So, I mean, I was just beating anytime there was this silly or whimsical or creative or, this young playful one, I would tamp him down to be this professional, smart, whatever bullshit mask, we were talking about masks. And I cut off my lifeblood.
Yeah.
And the more applause I got, the more I did it until it got to a point where I'm, having panic attacks and just a wreck. And
Wow.
so
Yeah.
that applause set me, I set myself on a road to collapse, which is so glad I had that experience so I could learn all those lessons and I can learn to unleash the playful one I never let out in the first half of my life. So
It's interesting, like, the fact that like you're getting a standing ovation from a country on the other side of the world, which some people would be like the pinnacle of their career. And at the same time, you were feeling like rock bottom.
yeah,
Like that's just
yeah,
such a dichotomy.
yeah, yeah.
That's great that you recognize that and were able to take the mask off.
There was no choice. There was no like I need to recognize that. It was like, I'm gonna die of a heart attack if I like this has to stop. Now
Yeah.
it took, then it takes courage for people to say, you want to know what, I can't do this anymore. And then move into let's use your analogy, to climb a second mountain, a very different kind of mountain, to take back your life. And that's the process that's been deeply fulfilling for me over the past, I don't know, however many years it's been.
Excellent.
And I think all of us have some version of that. It's the typical hero's journey.
Yeah,
We're
right.
born and then we have adversity, and we have to be courageous enough to slay the dragon so that we can move on to whatever else we want to move on to. That was the dragon I had to slay.
Well, congrats.
Thanks. Yeah, it's fun on the other side for sure.
It
I get
is.
trapped. I get trapped in my old bullshit, but I'm real aware of it, and I'm unwilling to be back on that first mountain. That is for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, third game. It's called Then and Now. And this game I thought of, I think it'd be really fun to think about the Jay who was a founder, like at the very beginning. What was it, 23 you started
Mm-hmm.
Solstice? Yeah, that
Mm-hmm.
Jay versus the Jay now, and the difference
Okay.
in who he is. I'm going to have you answer the same question or the same sentence twice. One from the version of old Jay, and second from the version of Jay now. Okay?
Okay. Yep.
So, when the company was just beginning, when you were 23, success meant,
Success meant making a lot of money and making a lot more money than my friends, being able to build a fantastic lifestyle that other people would admire.
yeah, no Old Navy sweatshirts for you.
No, it was just complete ego driven.
Awesome. And now, April 10th, 2026, success means,
I want to get 100,000 people playing tennis, like, and just hearing about the games they're playing. Like, that's to me way more exciting.
what about that is exciting and fulfilling for you? My guess is it's deeper than just having people playing tennis.
Yeah, because it's everything that comes with it. I think if people can find a game that they love to play, and it doesn't have to be tennis, it brings another dimension to their life, an area of growth that they can kind of pursue, another way to kind of feel happy, to meet new friends, to build more meaningful social connections. It's not about the game, but everything else it does for you. And part of it was like when I was going through that stuff in London, we were living in London for most of the time that I had that job, that CEO job at KNC. And I was like, we were grinding through this transformation. I had my wife and my kids, which was like my saving grace, but like no other social network really. Everyone was here. That's when I started playing tennis again. And it was like literally, it sounds overly dramatic, but like saved my life. I was working too much. I was just totally one dimensional and disconnected and unhappy with what I was doing. And so just having that second outlet was just such a powerful coping mechanism for me. And so I think it's something different to everybody, but like I just think the more people that I could provide that opportunity to, and this league is super flexible and it's super cheap, like people that can't afford a club can play in this thing for 49 bucks for a couple months of play. Like it's just way more fulfilling for me to see
Yeah.
that grow.
I love that. And I talk with a lot of folks like you and going through similar life stages, I suppose. And it's so apparent to me why we fall in love with the things that we fall in love with. And it's pretty obvious. And even in my own journey, we fall in love by creating an experience for others that we deeply, desperately, maybe even needed ourselves.
Yeah.
So tennis saved my life. If I can help someone else in that way, even in a small way, that would be so meaningful to me. I imagine. I'm
Yeah.
speaking
Yeah.
hypothetically as to what you might be.
Much better said than my long winded answer.
Well, the
Yes.
reason it's much better, I think about this all the time, and like that's why I'm a coach. Like
Yeah.
I
Right.
had a coach save my life, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I was an absolute disaster, and thank God I met someone that helped me, that cared for me, and helped me wake up.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, if I can help someone else receive what I received, like nothing makes me happier.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Totally feel you. Yeah.
Okay, the next one. When you were first starting Solstice at 23, fear sounded like,
What's everyone going to think if this doesn't work?
and in 2026, fear sounds like,
What if I can't fulfill the promise of the potential success of this business to the employees that I brought on, who all made sacrifices to come here? That's probably my biggest concern. it's going to work. We're going to make it work. But, everybody made a sacrifice to come to, everyone makes a sacrifice to come to a startup, right? So I want to be able to hopefully allow them to see the fruits of that risk.
I love that you care for the people that are, a part of the journey with you.
Yeah, I mean, it's if you build a team of people, and I had the fortunate, I've worked with 90% of our team in the past, so we all know each other. There's a huge amount of trust, and so yeah, you want to do right by your friends, right? Like you want to see them succeed. So that
Yeah.
that adds some added pressure versus if it wasn't like people completely from the outside that maybe I didn't know, So yeah,
Yeah.
that's probably I think a healthy fear, but definitely a fear.
Yeah.
How about you? Early and late Clay.
Why do you keep asking me these questions? Um,
I'm just rallying the ball back to you, man.
I didn't say I like playing tennis. No, I actually did say, I think multiple times, you can ask me whatever question. It's funny. I haven't thought through these, so I guess I got to do the same thing I'm asking you to do. I mean, it's the same thing I've already said. It's like, oh my God, who am I if I'm not amazing in everyone's eyes? Like, or really the fear is I won't be lovable or worthy if I'm not, amazing in people's eyes. That was the fear. And the fear now is, I'm really in this kind of like stage of mortality. Like, I'm not scared of dying necessarily, but, I just had cancer the second time in my life recently. And my body is not the young body it once was. And so I'm sort of in this question, and maybe with some fear around it, who am I without my body?
Yeah, I feel you there. Turned 50 this year. And yeah, I feel like there's just like a constant string of injuries and things that just like they just bring a sense of reality to like, okay, the body's getting older and it's probably going to continue to get older regardless of what I do or maybe because of it. And that's just part of like dealing with aging, right? Is learning to deal with that.
Yeah. So I'm a racket sports guy too. I think you know this. Pickleball is something that I've loved, and now I can't play any racket sport unless I have a stupid carbon fiber insole in my shoe. Otherwise, my toe's gonna explode. I mean, it's just like little
Yep.
things. It's just like, really? Oh my
Dude,
God.
you should see my tennis bag. I literally have a brace for every joint on the body that just like, depending on the day, I'm pulling one of them out.
Yeah, it's
And
just
it's
like, oh
great
my
because like
gosh.
I'll be playing somebody and they'll be like, oh, their knee. I'm like, hold on, I got something for that. Like I'll just, we can keep playing here. Put this on.
By the way, if anyone's having tennis elbow issues out there, Jay has boxes of hundreds of thousands of these little finger devices. He'd be happy to send you one. There
Yes.
it is.
This 100%. We got a million of these things. And you can buy these on Amazon for like a couple bucks. But this is the best therapy device for tennis elbow because it stretches this tendon right here because it's so gripping. It's so good. It's so
It's
good.
amazing. That thing is never
Yeah.
more than 12 inches away from you. That's
I
hilarious.
have
It's
like,
amazing.
I have one in my car. I have one in my bag. I have one in my desk. Yes. Yes. Although
Oh,
now I have
awesome.
golfer's elbow, Clay. I don't know where the hell this came from, but now I'm going to go get some dry needling to try to get that sorted out. So
Oh,
yeah, if it's not one
fabulous.
thing, it's the other, right?
Maybe we'll go on a dry needling date sometime soon. That'd be fun. Okay, two more. So back then, when you were 23, the thing I most wanted people to see in me was.
It probably goes along the lines of the last one. Like I just wanted to be viewed as successful and important.
Yeah, yeah,
So very ego driven at that age.
sure.
Yeah, I just want people to think I'm a nice guy. I just want like down to earth, genuine, nice person to hang around. Like
Yeah.
that's really all I hope for.
Isn't that such a relief? Like, that's
Yeah,
all I want now. It's so
yeah,
simple.
yeah. I
I
don't.
just want people to think I'm a nice guy. And I'm a nice guy. So it's like,
Yeah,
I just need to be myself.
yeah. I honestly don't mind wearing the Old Navy sweatshirt. Like I think it's like. I mean, maybe not when it says like Old Navy.
That's what I'm talking about. Like big old, not like if it says it on the tag, like everyone that sees me sees Old Navy across my chest.
Yeah, but I'm kind of cool with blending in. I'm like totally cool with that. Like just kind of just having a seat at the table, listening.
That's
I'm
cool.
fine with that.
All right, one last one. Back then, when you were 23, how I want, and maybe these are variations of the same thing, I suppose, but how I want to be remembered. This gets into legacy a little bit.
I think back then I was really concerned about more about what other people, how other people viewed me. And then, like, as I got older, you come to this realization that it's like, no matter what you do or how successful you are, within 2 generations, you're going to be forgotten, no matter how many names you maybe have on plaques or buildings. So I really, for me, it's like more about my kids and what they think, what they view, what they remember, what they take forward with them. I think the longest legacy kind of that you could have is shaping them and their views as you. My wife's dad passed away. It's probably been about 10 years. His name was John DeMarco. He was genuinely like the best guy. He was just the most caring individual. He had 9 kids, loved them all. They all felt loved by him. And he was just so warm and just a wonderful person. And so, like, 10 years later, he's got this big family, 29, I don't know, 28 grandkids and like 7 or 8 great grandkids. I mean, everyone just remembers him about what a wonderful person he was, you know? And like to me, like that is the best you could do.
All
How
right.
about you? How would you frame it back then and today?
I mean, honestly, I'm not hedging the question. Back then, I was just like, I don't think I could see past tomorrow. I was just so deeply focused on just feeling, again, worthy to like be with the people I was hanging out with. And I think my mechanism back then was humor. I was pretty good at using humor to create connection. So I would have wanted people to, back then, wanted to remember me as a really funny guy, probably. And now how I want people to, yeah, that I'm a caring, loving guy. Like,
Hmm.
I really think about this. Like, I mean, I genuinely love my clients. Nothing warms my heart more than like being able to help them create whatever they're wanting in their lives. It's fun for me to just love the people around me as best I can. So I guess that's how I want to be remembered.
Yeah. Well said.
All right. So those are the 3 games. Hopefully that
That
wasn't
was fun. That was
too
great.
Oh, good. It was fun. Yeah. I had a lot of fun with it too. Thanks for playing
Yeah.
along. Couple questions for you. So yeah, we just talked a lot about 23-year-old Jay versus Jay today, and if Jay today could go back and have a conversation with 23-year-old Jay, what would be most important for you to share with him?
I know. I think I would talk about the ghost a little bit and just make it clear about the benefits, and the drawbacks of that, of having that, and just fast forward that learning a little bit. That would probably be the main thing that I would want to share. I mean, obviously, a lot of this other stuff just kind of comes with maturity and understanding what really matters in life. And to some degree, I think you have to kind of go through life to kind of understand that. But the ghost is something that, that was the reason I talked to those kids about it at U of I. It's like just giving that a name and understanding that you're not alone when if you whatever that ghost is that kind of drives you or holds you back, just not letting it lead you to a place that you don't really want to go. And I think for me, I have no regrets, but there's definitely some different decisions I would make if I was acknowledging that it was the ghost that was really taking me to wherever that next place was.
Yeah, yeah.
How about
Anything you
you? What
miss
would be,
about?
or are we're not going back and forth anymore?
No, we can. You are enough. You are lovable. You are loved.
Hmm.
And look, I'm right in the eyes, so he could feel it. So he could feel the words.
Yeah, nice.
Pretty simple.
Yeah.
Anything you miss about 23-year-old Jay?
I don't know. I mean, at that phase in your life, the world is just open. Like, you've got no responsibilities other than yourself to some degree. Again, and very happy with how everything's landed and ended in the place where I landed, but it is exciting to not know where, what, and how you're going to settle down. So I think that's like just a kind of an awesome time of life to just have all those opportunities just in front of you. Like it's super exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I've got a trademark question I ask all of my guests. What truth helps the giant in you rise up when fear drags you down?
It's just a matter of knowing like everything's going to be okay. Like I don't know. Well, no matter what phase of my life or career I've been in, I've always kind of indexed on like, this sounds kind of funny, but it's like, could I just get a job as like a software engineer? And like, if I did, like, we could just live the same lifestyle we're living and everything would be okay. There's a fallback plan that I always have in my head that like, it would be fine. Like, it'd be totally fine. My wife's an optometrist. She could be my sugar mama. It'd be totally okay. It'd be fine. But I just think like just the anxiety of like never like tried to get ahead of ourselves in terms of how we're thinking about life so it's not dependent on being successful. So I guess my point is like just the confidence that everything's going to be okay is always what grounds me no matter what the anxiety or stress or fear is that's like facing me at the moment. I'm confident that everything, no matter how bad it goes, everything's going to be okay.
So the takeaway I want everyone to walk away with is marry an optometrist. I
Yeah.
think that's the big that's a big takeaway here, because if you marry an optometrist, everything's going to be just fine.
Everything will be fine. Yeah. Sorry, that wasn't very motivating, but I just think it's putting it on. Yeah, it's just like it's putting it all in perspective, right? It's just like
Yeah, of course.
things that really matter. It really doesn't take a lot to kind of to be able to give you the things that really matter. Assuming your health is there, and I think that's the one thing that we have to be appreciative of when we have it.
Sure, sure. This has been so fun for me. I knew it was going to be a great conversation, and it delivered. So thank you for spending the time with me, Jay.
Yeah, thank you.
Before we wrap, though, anything else you want to share? Anything you want to pitch around Gladiator? If people are interested in learning more, where do they find it? Or
Check
you?
out gladiatortennis.com. Yeah, we're expanding to new cities every quarter, and if we're not in your city and you're interested in seeing us go there, drop us a note, and we'll definitely check it out.
I love it. We did it.
Yeah,
Thanks so
thanks,
much.
Clay. This was super fun.
I do these on Fridays, and like being able to just share what's real, being in a conversation where we put our bullshit aside and just, yeah, my silly fear is wearing an Old Navy sweatshirt. Like, I know it's ridiculous, but it's like actually
I
kind of true
love
to
it.
me.
Yeah, that's
But it's like,
great.
yeah, if we can just like right now, I just feel like I'm
Yeah,
seen, I'm present, I feel connected with you. It's like, this is the life I want to live. And like, what a cool, we do these on Fridays. It's Friday today. Like, I just feel like I feel deeply fulfilled. So thanks for being in this little experiment with me.
yeah. Thanks for doing it, and thanks for asking me. That was
Yeah,
fun.
of course. And folks watching, I hope you enjoyed this just as much as I did. And if so, please follow the show and join me, Clay Stelzer, where we have these kinds of conversations each week. As we stop pretending, we name our fears, and we remember what it takes to stand tall as the giants we already are. When leaders get real, they make it safe for others to do the same, which is why we're running the show here. So please subscribe or follow wherever you listen to podcasts. Share with other leaders, leave a review if you're inclined, and help more people feel what's possible when fear doesn't run the show. Thank you so much.